Julie here with Sirius Taurus Moon, Jupiter Day, Jupiter Hour. We are almost embarking to the Barbolt basket. And actually, that's not what prompted me to press record. We are reminded of 2017, also around the solar eclipse. And I made an episode about that. Now I want to talk about what is different between 2017 and this year. Because this year, 2017, brings a lot. It was the year where the Me Too was krakatowing into existence. All the while, within the secret societies, the men were not able to speak. And perhaps had to break the silence together with the women. It's not like women didn't die. It's not like women weren't in life risk. It's not like women weren't tortured. Um, and now let's talk about a couple of things that are different. First of all, it's Rahu Ketu reversal. So if the Me Too was very focusing on Leo from a materializing point of view, then right now we have it in a mixed way. So although it's Rahu Ketu reversal, we are supposed to dematerialize a lot of the things that were still, how should I say that? The things that were accumulated, things that were materialized in 2017 and were not supporting our open, vulnerable heart. And then Jupiter ruling Rahu is closer to Ketu, is in Leo as well. So we are materializing something to do with the big belief that is reforming or transmuting beliefs about Lilith. For example, Lilith no longer being the exiled or the disincluded. Think about Shiva and Shakti versus Lilith and Adam, or Eve or Adam. Now to the outer planets. First of all, before the outer planets, Jupiter. Jupiter was around Spica at the time of the Me Too. And so there was a lot of jurisdiction. Jupiter as justice also meant change in jurisdiction, that the right of the public to know takes precedence over a lot of the juristic procedure that was not adapting to the inherent nature of sexual boundary violation. This Jupiter is actually in Leo. It's more about justice being purging the leaders that were behind what caused people to not be able to be safe and vulnerable and trusting around the Me Too. What leaders are those? It can be leaders of secret societies, of hereditary lineages, particularly hereditary lineages where they were very patriarchal. Okay, I'm not saying the Pope, we changed the Pope since. But think about, and we are reforming. Ruler of Rahu being Jupiter closer to Ketu, is reforming something, is a new look at the old, and it's regarding its ruling Lilith. We are basically, with Lilith trining Aries, we are either including Lilith as an honorable woman, because Jupiter is in Leo, or there's going to be a Troy war around that part. Lilith was the woman that would not be subjugated. It's the woman that didn't want to be trafficked, that didn't want to be raped, that didn't want to be above or below anyone. That didn't want to be trafficked, not even as a dominatrix. And she was exiled from something that wasn't heaven without her. Now, justice here is also separating from opposition to Pluto. So we're separating from the core topics around the exile from heaven. We are reforming something there. Now, we might not be addressing it as heaven on earth, but more as heart health. Okay, there is, with this Mars, Moon ruling over Mars, Mars ruling over Saturn and Neptune, there is a medical undertone to this. There was also to the Me Too. Okay, sexual boundary violation causes inflammation. It causes challenges to the fifth vital sign. It could cause issues related with the heart, issues related with cancer, issues related with neurodegenerative diseases. It's at the root of all. Neptune also rules psychiatry, so psychiatric diseases. And this brings me to the next point. Okay, basically, the sexual boundary violation is causing a disability to someone. And since that happens, Jupiter is also children. That happens to infants in occultistic, and this is also the part of Pluto. It was like, well, there were occultistic rituals. Those were religious rituals. And people since infanthood dealt with the implication of chronic, basically, unconscious blame for something, for being born even. Chronic inflammation related diseases, mental and physical. Chronic misdiagnosis, and the prescribed drugs would not be supportive. Chronic isolation or even dissociation. Now let's take a look at the big tree, because the big tree, as the outer planets, are in completely different signs. Pluto was in Capricorn, and we were looking at the pyramidal structure and the core issues around the pyramidal structure. Is it more about representation of women? Is it about the training or rites of passages to get to the pyramidal structure? Is it about certain lobbying or certain cult-related phenomena? Is it about decentralizing? Now Pluto is in Aquarius. We are looking at the taboo topics with the decentralized systems. Like the story of the exile from heaven, just when Adam and Eve made it to overcome something that was of subjugation nature. Okay, the snake rising. But then Adam was not compatible for that. And then we see, a story of exile of both of them. with Eve being the subjugator. So basically, we should have either replaced Adam or completely rewritten Genesis. Um, in Me Too, we had stories where certain women walked out or said, I want out, and there was an attempt to subjugate them even by society. Now, Pluto and Aquarius, different sign, different deacon, has to do with the exile from heaven. Now, it prompts the question, because to rewrite Genesis, we would need to completely do away with the existing one. Neptune was in Pisces in 2017. Neptune Pisces made connections between beliefs and disease, choice and disease. The upside was that people began to see points of choice or points of intervention regarding curing diseases that seemed incurable. The connection between our religions or spiritual practices and philosophies and our mental health or hard to diagnose diseases. But that had also pitfalls. For example, a situation of chronic helplessness also makes it difficult for people to be able to have to be able to see the choice or to be able to actually have access to choice. And now people say, oh, a choice is there, it's just that they can't see it. For the person that can't see it, it's not there. It also brings the notion of like, oh, is it about we can take the horse to the water? Well, if you violated the horse, if you raped the horse, if you abuse the horse and then you take them to the water doesn't absorb, the minerals do not absorb well. And they might not be even able to drink. So, did you really take them to the water? Neptune in Aries accentuates the topic of inflammation. Mars is action. Neptune can bring difficulty with taking action. It can also bring having to surrender whether one will take action or not. There's some people say, oh, Neptune in Aries is about no one's coming to save you. Neptune in Aries can also be about the situations that actually need saving. Neptune-Mars combinations is literally search and rescue teams. Um, it is also about the holistic picture of taking action, whatever that means. Not so much necessarily implications, although Saturn can bring that, but it can bring a challenging notion regarding actions and implications. Uh, Neptune does sextile Pluto, which has the risk of nuclear leaking. Uranus was in Aries, not even in Taurus. And now it's in Gemini. Uranus Aries was conjoining Aries, which emphasized the fact that scientific revolution cannot happen with context of rape as rite of passage. Now we are seeing the cultural revolutions, the law that were passed that challenged the ability of scientists to speak against the government agenda. Where were they at the Me Too? Okay, there were people talking about it at the Me Too, but there's also a Uranus in Gemini, which is more about the only type of win in business is that which honor the feminine. Otherwise, it's a Pyrrhus win. So we had the outer planets on the earth and water elements. Now they're on the air and fire. The Endeavour Bolt basket will be triggered with Mercury the day before. People that were harmed at institutions like hospitals, mental or not. Okay, there's the undertone of the Epstein dossiers. It's not a speaker one, but they might be, the implications might be that the businesses that are affiliated with the Epstein dossiers are going boom or something of that sort. Because those were people that were basically exiled from housing, business, and so on, in sometimes even within their bodies. Um, Chiron. Chiron was still in Pisces during, not in Aries even, but in Pisces. So wounds around beliefs. Wounds around beliefs, and Jupiter was correcting the wounds around our beliefs regarding the Me Too, okay? It's not the women that were, let's say, the mean ones or the cunning ones in the situation. Now Chiron is in Taurus, so there is a wound around embodiment. Even when we think about the voice and how trauma can be diagnosed from the voice of the person. Okay, if anybody would put my voice through any, they would be like, yeah, the shit ton of trauma. That's Um, that's literally evidence, like, and it's also wound around land. So people might be looking at, wait a second, who has the land, who doesn't have the land? Land is imperative to recover from sexual boundary violation. How come all the people associated with the Epstein list have the land? This is going to be a big issue. And what are the people going to do about that? But the people will only be able to do something about that if they honor the feminine. Um, Saturn, 2017. Let's take a look at 2017. Because Saturn, I believe, would be either around the end of Sagittarius. And now Lilith is where, yeah, I think Lilith is going to be where Saturn was, but I need to check that. The WikiLeaks issue was up as well. So there are probably going to be issues around whether something is journalism or espionage. After the Epstein list, we understand it was journalism. Saturn ingressed to Capricorn December 20. It means it was around where Lilith was, where Lilith is going to be. Okay, so Saturn on the galactic center. People have prominent places. Try to think back. For some of you, you may have had your Saturn returns, Saturn maturations, any prominent placements in the last degrees of Sagittarius. Was around the Me Too, I think, was around November. I think even 17 November, so November 17, or after, or when he ingressed to Capricorn, it was still Mula Nakshatra. Um, Remember that the people that spoke around the Me Too couldn't speak beforehand, so it was a Krakatoa eruption type of transit. Lilith is going to be where Saturn was. Think about the difference between Saturn, which is something that has a telos, something that can be orthodox, or something that can be limiting, okay, restricting faith, reality check on beliefs, restricting expansion of something. And now Lilith is where Saturn was. Um, Lilith is the woman that would not be subjugated. Saturn is the father that people fear. Saturn, Jupiter can be God-fearing. But Lilith is completely transforming. For example, Lilith would not be in a situation where she has to fear Saturn. Okay, a lot of the things that happen around the Me Too were about us not having to fear when we go to a workplace, when we live in a residence, when people are in a relationship, even with the gods. Okay, but why the wrath of the Krakatoa, which is the subjugation of the feminine, was way more intense. It was way more fearsome, but it also was an eruption that was rejuvenating the core of the earth. So think that if Saturn was there around the Me Too or around, I don't know, WikiLeaks, um, then now Lilith, how should I say it out? There is something about Magha that requires a lot of transmutation. Lilith cannot make her contribution without rewriting completely Genesis, the foundation, the cornerstone of religion. Now, why did I say religion and not monotheistic religion? Of course, in pre-monotheistic religion, we're going to have some sort of equivalence. I just think about the fact that I said arranged marriage is human trafficking. Okay? Does giving consultation to a couple that is thinking to date or to marry is human trafficking? No. Okay, note the difference. Okay? It shakes from the core a lot of pre-monotheistic beliefs. There are cultures where even people, secular people, academic people, they would go to consult astrologer. And there's nothing wrong with that, but there is a difference between that and arranged marriage. And now people say, oh, but people have the right to choose, people have the right to this, people have the right. Whoa, ho, oh, 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 oh. Now is the time to take all of these things and throw them out into the garbage. I don't want you to get caught by the magma or by the CO2 emission of the volcanoes that are erupting. Why? From a Taurus point of view, it's very easy to understand it. The scent of will and consent. It's not about, oh, with that person, with that person. What was Senna's story? She didn't find a proper suitor. Why? The scent of will and consent wasn't there. Why? There was an issue of esoterics that used trafficking for power. And eventually, her father was tempted to do that. And then there was no food. Why? What was the issue of food? Sedna, they believed that Sedna had to be wed because who will take care of her? Who will feed her? And then when they would require Sedna basically to be raped because she didn't find a suitor, then Sedna drowned and there was no food. And the shamans, Inuit shamans, had to appease Sedna. 2017, whatever were our beliefs about food, now we have Sedna that was in Taurus in Gemini. Sedna's story reminds us that nothing is more important than to not rape, even at wedding, even when we feared that there would be no one to feed the girl at puberty or whatnot. That food is lost, the minerals do not absorb well, even when there is food, by the way. Why? Sexual boundary violation causes inflammation, even at people-pleasing situations. Oh, he's so turning on, he's so beautiful, he treats me so nice. I will flex on myself a little bit, and then there is what? Candida, yeast. If you don't take care of that, there is cancer. Notice I didn't even say rape. People pleasing. I didn't even say lack of attraction. What is the Rahu 0 degree Pisces? Tropical Pisces, the ocean. There can be fire in the ocean. When is there big fire in the ocean? Opposing Pluto, Pluto in the air. Big fire in the ocean. Where's there big fire in the ocean? What went on fire? Okay, just think about examples of things that the fire is so strong that there is fire in the ocean. Eclipses are naturally less favorable for traveling, let's say. Um, but they can be various issues. Pluto opposing Jupiter can be a big nuclear leak. But nuclear leak doesn't necessarily give us fire in the ocean. Military action of People's Army, Royal People's Army, something like that, can give us, let's say a plane goes on fire and then is basically fire in the ocean. But Leo is a fixed sign. It's not something that is. So what is fire in the ocean that is fixed? It can be a war. It can be um, the type of, if there are volcanoes where there is ocean next to them, or where there is um, um, Mercury is also in Leo. There can be messages that are explosive, but Uranus agrees with Mercury. There may be words that are said that are kind of like the meteors, kind of like everybody knew that that's the thing, but nobody spoke up. Okay? Everybody knew that those weird offers or those weird things that happen at workplaces are not romance on campus. It's basically human trafficking. But nobody spoke up. Okay, from the window, I'm hearing again. I told you that there. I heard hate towards Maccabi Tel Aviv. There is like a game, and up in the center, they were calling them to be in the basically burnt in like in the camps. Misrafot, it was called. Israelis with Israelis, רק בישראל, and only in Israel. um, and outside there were a group of children or youth was saying that Maccabi is a whore or those type of things. Again, I'm not. I don't know. I wouldn't know how to do a sports astrology, but it's heated conflicts. Right now, Mars is in Gemini. Mars is going to be in 0 degree Cancer, but it's like 12 degrees Gemini. It's it's not even. It's sextiles. It's blind to sextile Saturn. Like it's a grain which is not even. Um, they can be thinking like an A bomb drops on stadiums, maybe sports stadiums, something that is the equivalent of an A bomb drop on sports stadium because of this culture. Now, here's the thing: the youth, the children, they're not to blame. They didn't, and I think that that is the opposition between Pluto and Mercury and Jupiter. It's kind of like those are just children; they're not to blame. Um, now, there's also an issue or theme around that when people went through sexual boundary violation, there is the adult self, there is the child self, and there are discrepancies around them. But because the offenses were by the people that were the financiers or the people that would decide on the money, and they also went through abuse, it's not something that, how should I say it? People talk about the apotropsy. It's kind of like, well, we'll have to have an apotropsy for anybody on the Epstein list. These are world leaders. It, and the people that didn't see, let's say the Epstein, anybody that called it a conspiracy, anybody that blamed the victim, anybody that didn't believe the testimonies of the people, they're not qualified for being, let's say, an apotropsy. And sexual boundary violation was wealth consolidation on natural resources and real estate. It was basically a form of esoteric ritual abuse. Okay, so we have an abundance of intricacies. On a global scale. Now, These things makes the situation different than 2017. Um, and it looks like it's atomically different. Now, atomically can be a metaphor. Back then we had Pluto, I think, in the middle decan of Capricorn. Later it would be co-present with Saturn already, which would usher us into COVID. Because December 20, 2017, Saturn ingressed to Capricorn. It would do the back and forth, and then slowly adjoin at around COVID. So now Saturn is in a T square with where, let's say, the middle decan Capricorn, middle decan Cancer. Um, I also want to emphasize that the issue back then we took the issue of trauma meter. Okay, is something that um, people might not want to spark. Let's say the Leo aspect can create situation where um, it's both about not disregarding. Let's say if we talk about military trauma, not disregarding military trauma, because essentially the military trauma was sexual boundary violation as well. Um, but also not disregarding those whose trauma was not from the military, because it was a military operation as well. Um, okay, everything back there was preparation for 7th of October. And COVID and many other things that happen in the world. Another thing to keep in mind is not a person to person in a usual sense type of a transit. 2017 there was more, this is what happened to me, that's the person that did that. No, now we understand it was a form of ritual abuse. That was also esoteric ritual abuse that collectivized people in a certain way. Um, sorry. This issue is also coming up. Again, it's the lymph nodes, lymph fluids, fascia, fifth vital sign, endocrine system, nervous system that are associated with all those meter related things. Um, um, mm, 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 it is getting impossible. Ketu is coming to purge, and the moon is applying to Ketu. The attempt to purge what was polluting the fluids. Um, certain types of healing may have taken place, but also alongside a lot of wounding. Essentially, it's leading to every person needing to have their own sense of self, life, energy, land per person. People that thought that they are light bringers, how should I say that? Let's say, I remember 2017, I was still thinking that enlightenment was all the cool people that were philosophers at around a particular area, a particular time in history. Um, People that were, how should I say that? The energies that were, I don't know how they're related to 2017. People that were either there in the ether prior to meeting in the physical. Um, okay, that issue may come up. Um, it can be that at 2017 they were in the ether. A lot of people try to find what is the actual supportive energy, and that could have been, how should I say, accessed by people that may have had certain things of those frequencies, but they may have also been, let's say, tortured by the Epsteinis, and then would have had various entities or various personalities associated with them. Um, anyway, for certain people, this has been a lifelong issue. I think Lilith on the Galactic Center can accentuate that. The awareness, okay, particularly around beliefs, academic structures, Mula Nakshatra, so it can also be big wealth, beliefs like motivational, um, benevolence. Benevolence is not about subjugating. Um, in 2017, there were a lot of people that didn't know, let's say, the full extent of like the Epstein issues. So, on an esoteric, on a technological, certain people may have wrote academic works. I know I wrote about the body-mind question in the medicines, ESP, comparative study on ESP, the call to declassify classify technologies, which is imperative for jurisdiction. A lot of such things might have a practical implication now. Okay, they basically expose certain mechanisms. Um, there's going to be a certain rawness of things, rawness of the message. There was something about the inability to prepare for the message, the inability to control the message so much. That was in itself the evidence. Because it's trying to purge the toxins from the body. Um, yeah.